Emma was born in Willow Creek, a charming county nestled in the countryside of New Hampshire, where the lush green hills stretched endlessly beneath an expansive sky. Her parents, Tom and Mary, were the heart and soul of that place, living on a farm that thrived on their love and dedication. Tom, a reserved and devout man, found joy in the simplicity of the land. Mary, on the other hand, was a radiant woman, brimming with life, who transformed the ordinary into poetry and lightness. Together, they were like the seasons. While Tom embodied the quiet warmth of summer, Mary brought the spontaneity and renewal of spring. Tom and Mary's world was shaped by their tranquil routine, cultivating the land and taking walks at sunset, during which Mary would recite poems and tell stories that filled the serene countryside with vibrant life. When they discovered Mary was pregnant, Tom's heart was filled with a newfound light. He envisioned the farm as a place of cherished memories for the family they were building, a sanctuary where they could teach their child the value of hard work, the beauty of nature, and the love of home. Willow Creek, with its crystal-clear streams and golden hills at dusk, seemed the perfect backdrop for this new chapter. As the months passed, Mary and Tom anticipated the arrival of their baby with a sense of magical transformation, each day becoming a page of hope and plans. Tom dreamed of showing their child the constellations and teaching them how to tend to the crops, while Mary wished for their son or daughter to inherit the same joy she saw in Tom and in the simplicity of their rural life. But unexpectedly, a storm loomed, bringing with it a farewell they could never have foreseen. The day Emma was born was marked not only by the arrival of new life but also by the irreversible loss of another. Holding his daughter for the first time, Tom felt the emptiness left by Mary and, at the same time, a silent promise began to form in his heart. He vowed to dedicate his life to protecting Emma, the living memory of the woman who had brought him the most precious joy and who now lived on in his daughter's eyes. Emma became the reason Tom would face the world. Tom's grief was a deep, dark ocean, but he chose to navigate its depths alone, never outwardly showing the pain that consumed him. Losing Mary brought a silent sorrow, but rather than succumbing to the void, he made a promise to himself. He would honor her memory by wholly dedicating himself to raising Emma. In every small gesture, Tom found a way to keep alive the presence of the woman he had loved. For him, taking care of Emma was more than a responsibility. It was a way to ensure that the love Mary had left behind would never be lost. Willow Creek was a small, tight-knit community where everyone knew Tom and Mary's story. The townspeople noticed Tom's unwavering devotion to his daughter and soon came to regard him with quiet respect. They watched as he carried Emma with such profound tenderness it was almost tangible. Slowly, Tom adjusted to his new reality, with his days centered around caring for Emma and the silent memories he held close. Each of Emma's smiles and laughter was a spark of hope that warmed his heart, a constant tribute to the love he and Mary had once shared. Over time, Tom's protective nature toward Emma began to take on another form. He did everything in his power to shield her from harm, both physical and emotional. This love, though deeply heartfelt, created an almost imperceptible barrier around Emma, as if the outside world were a constant threat he needed to keep at bay. Tom believed that by protecting her, he was ensuring she would never feel the pain he had known after losing Mary. This love, however, began to manifest as a protective cocoon he unknowingly built around her. As a young child, Emma grew up surrounded by her father's care, feeling deeply loved and secure. Yet, as she began observing the other children in Willow Creek, she noticed a difference between their lives and her own. Her friends roamed freely across the fields, explored streams, and played carefree games, while she always remained within Tom's watchful gaze. Without fully understanding, Emma began to feel a quiet yearning for something beyond the farm and her father's vigilant presence. Despite her growing doubts, Emma's love for Tom remained sincere and profound. She recognized his dedication and appreciated his efforts to shield her from harm. At the same time, however, a part of her longed for Frida, a world she had yet to discover and which stirred a deep curiosity in her heart. With each passing day, this desire became harder to ignore, and while she tried to honor her father's care, Emma knew that something inside her was calling for more. In her teenage years, Emma found a personal refuge, the small library at Willow Creek School. It was there, among the shelves lined with old books, that she discovered the solace and adventure she so deeply craved. The books offered her an escape from her father's protective control, transporting her to faraway lands and stories of people who explored the world fearlessly. Through every novel and poem she read, Emma felt as if she, too, were experiencing a piece of the freedom she lacked. Inspired by the stories she read, Emma began to venture into writing. She spent solitary hours with a notebook she kept hidden under her pillow, filling it with poetry that reflected her deepest, most contradictory feelings. These verses were like confessions, a way to express her longing for a life she had never experienced and her desire to break free from the invisible barriers surrounding her. With a pen in hand, Emma found a voice she lacked the courage to reveal openly, a voice that yearned to be heard. Tom, in turn, began to notice changes in Emma. He watched her grow before his eyes, blossoming into a curious and intelligent young woman whose interests extended beyond the routines of farm life. This development stirred a quiet pride in him, but also an unshakable fear. Tom worried that as Emma matured, she might drift away from him and the home he had worked so hard to keep safe. This silent fear drove him to tighten his protective grip, devising new ways to keep her close and shielded. Over time, Tom's overprotection became a source of internal conflict for Emma. She loved her father and, to some extent, understood the reasons behind his care. Yet she began to feel that his excessive concern was suffocating her desire to explore and learn about the world beyond the confines of Willow Creek. In her poems, Emma gave form to this anguish, describing the farm as a golden cage and the fields around it as impenetrable horizons. Her words were, in many ways, a silent cry for a freedom she feared might be out of reach. As the years went by, Emma's yearning for independence grew stronger, as did her internal struggle between her love for her father and her need to chart her own path. Although she respected Tom's devotion to her, she knew her life had to extend beyond the fields of Willow Creek. This conflict took root in her heart, and Emma realized she was facing an inevitable choice: continue being the daughter he had always sought to protect, or finally take the reins of her own story. Recognizing that writing was more than just a pastime, Emma embraced her words as a personal mission. Her poems began to reflect not only her longing for freedom, but also a newfound and intense maturity. She started sharing some of her poetry at local gatherings, where the Willow Creek community, captivated by her sensitivity, came together to listen. Gradually, Emma gained the confidence to speak in public, and her emotionally charged words became a way to express what she had never been able to tell her father. Each performance gave Emma a sense of belonging she had never felt before. She felt connected to something greater than the boundaries of the farm, as though she was finally building an identity that transcended the shadow of Tom's protective love. For the first time, Emma felt her words had the power to transform pain and longing into beauty and inspiration, turning her suffering into a foundation for her strength. By transforming her loneliness into poetry, Emma realized she could build bridges to the outside world rather than just dream of it. For Tom, however, Emma's growth brought a mixture of pride and an even deeper fear. He saw his daughter becoming a talented and determined young woman, and with every poetry reading, it seemed like further proof that she had ambitions and dreams that couldn't be confined to the limits of Willow Creek. Each time Emma recited verses about freedom and discovery, Tom felt as if the world were trying to pull her away from his grasp. In response, he attempted to restrict her activities and gatherings, hoping to keep her close and safe from the dangers he believed were lurking beyond. Emma, on the other hand, found herself caught in an increasingly evident conflict. She loved her father deeply but knew her life couldn't forever be contained by his protective love. With each poem she wrote, She felt the urge to challenge the invisible barriers Tom placed around her, even as she dreaded hurting him. Emma knew that to live fully, she needed to be honest about her desire for freedom. Yet her respect for her father and her fear of causing him pain made her steps toward independence hesitant and slow. Her late-night writing sessions became a way for Emma to balance her love for her father with her longing to break free. She began writing poems that delved deeper into the pain of living torn between two forces, protection and independence. Her words painted the portrait of a soul searching for its own voice, while still touched by the unconditional love of the man who had raised her. And though Emma didn't yet know how, she understood that soon she would have to choose between following the careful path Tom had laid out or forging her own way forward. One late afternoon, while exploring the farmhouse attic, Emma stumbled upon an old, dust-covered box. Inside, she found letters, notes, and photographs of her mother, Mary. Some of the letters were exchanges with friends and family, revealing a young Mary full of life and dreams. There was also a small journal in which her mother had written about moments from her past and confessed desires she had never fulfilled. Curiosity and emotion overcame Emma as she opened the journal and began to read the words of the woman who, though distant, had always been a part of her life. In the pages of the journal, Mary wrote about her own dreams of freedom and adventure. Before meeting Tom, she too had longed to explore the world and experience life beyond Willow Creek. She detailed the journeys she dreamed of taking, the cities she wished to visit, and the stories she yearned to live. Emma felt a deep connection to her mother as she realized that this beloved woman had also faced the same questions of freedom and belonging. For the first time, Emma truly saw Mary not just as her mother, but as a woman with complex desires and aspirations. The discovery of the journal brought Emma a newfound understanding. She realized that her mother, even without leaving Willow Creek, had carried the same longing to see the world. Mary, however, had found her happiness with Tom, choosing to build a life centered on the love they shared and the home they created together. Emma understood that, in a way, her own quest for freedom was a silent inheritance, a legacy from Mary now awakening within her. In that moment, Emma decided she would not settle for merely dreaming of what lay beyond. She would live authentically, honoring the free spirit her mother seemed to have passed on to her. Later, as Emma reread Mary's journal, she came across passages about her mother's love for poetry and her habit of reciting verses to the baby she carried while walking through the farm. This tender image made Emma feel even closer to Mary, as if they shared not only blood but also a poetic essence, an unquiet soul yearning for the world. Emma realized that, in some way, her mother's voice had echoed in her own heart, guiding her to discover poetry as an expression of her personal freedom. Tom was unaware that Emma had found Mary's journal, but that evening, she considered telling him. However, when she saw him sitting alone, his gaze fixed on the past, she hesitated. Emma knew that for her father, Mary would always remain a sacred and silent memory. She decided to keep the journal to herself a little longer, waiting for the right moment to share her discovery. Yet this unexpected connection to Mary's past brought Emma a new sense of courage and determination. She knew she would eventually have to confront her father to follow her own path. But for now, she felt there was still more to uncover on her journey. Motivated by the discovery of her mother's journal, Emma began to write with more passion and purpose. Poetry became her truest voice, a way to express the feelings of longing, love, and freedom she carried within. Her verses spoke of the hills of Willow Creek as mountains she needed to climb, of the streams as borders she yearned to cross. Each poem she wrote became a silent dialogue with her mother's spirit, inspiring her to move forward. In a moment of boldness, Emma decided to share these words at a local reading night at the library, an event that brought the community together. When her turn came to read, Emma stepped onto the stage with her heart pounding, but as she looked out at the familiar faces of Willow Creek's residents, she felt a surge of strength. She recited her poems with an intensity that came from the depths of her soul, voicing the conflict between love and the need for liberation. Her words stirred deep emotions in the community, resonating with feelings many seemed to understand. To them, Emma was no longer just Tom's daughter. She was a determined young woman whose voice captured the beauty and complexity of a growing spirit. Among the audience was Tom, who listened to every word in silence, concealing the storm within him. Hearing Emma's verses about freedom and her longing to explore the world, he felt as though he were losing her to an invisible and inevitable force. Her words filled him with pride but also deepened his fear. After the reading, many townspeople approached Emma to praise her, moved by the sensitivity of her poetry. Tom, however, kept his distance, absorbing every word and grappling with how to reconcile his desire to protect Emma with her dreams of freedom. That night, back at the farm, Emma and Tom had an honest conversation. Emboldened by her newfound courage, Emma confessed to her father how much she wanted to see the world and explore new possibilities, even if it meant temporarily leaving the home he had so carefully preserved. Tom, despite having promised himself he would support Emma in any choice, couldn't hide his fear of seeing her leave. In his heart, he believed the world could harm her and still thought that the protection he had always provided was the best way to show his love. But as he looked at his daughter, now a confident and determined young woman, he realized that his love could no longer keep her confined. Emma, on the other hand, understood her father's love and the intentions behind his control, but she knew she had to pursue her own happiness. With a mix of sadness and courage, she reaffirmed her desire to go beyond the hills of Willow Creek, promising her father she would never forget the home and love he and Mary had given her. In that moment, they both recognized the depth of their bond and the complexity of the love they shared. And although Tom still feared what the future might hold for Emma, he finally understood that to truly make her happy, he had to let her go. With her father's permission, though still accompanied by his quiet resistance, Emma began planning to leave Willow Creek. The idea of leaving was both exhilarating and terrifying, but Emma was determined to move forward. She knew there would be challenges, yet the desire to see the world gave her the strength to face them. To fund her journey, Emma decided to sell some of her poems to a small local publication, hoping her words would help launch her new adventure. Tom, though heavy-hearted, resolved to support Emma in the best way he knew how. He began teaching her practical skills he deemed essential for her survival outside the farm: how to take care of herself, fix small things, and stay cautious when dealing with strangers. With each piece of advice, he was reminded of the promises he had made to Mary about raising their daughter together. Now, despite being alone, he wanted to ensure Emma was prepared for the world, a place he still saw as full of dangers, but also of possibilities. In the final days before her departure, Emma and Tom shared long conversations by the lake near the farm, a place they both cherished. Emma spoke to her father about her hopes, the places she wanted to see, and the adventures she dreamed of having. Tom, hesitant, shared stories of his own youth, revealing details of his past he had rarely mentioned. He told Emma how he had once dreamed of seeing the world with Mary, and how they had ended up building a life together in Willow Creek. These memories not only brought Emma and Tom closer, but also reinforced the love they shared, giving Tom a new perspective on his daughter's decision to leave. The Willow Creek community also rallied to help Emma prepare for her journey. Friends and neighbors offered their support, advice, and even gifts for her travels. The farewell slowly became an almost festive event, but with every smile and embrace, Emma felt the weight of leaving behind those who had known her since she was a child. The mixture of emotions, the excitement for her adventure and the sadness of parting, turned into poetry, and she wrote new verses in her notebook, trying to capture the significance of the moment. On the morning of her departure, Tom awaited Emma with a special gift: Mary's journal. He explained that he thought it was important for Emma to carry something of her mother on her journey, so that in moments of doubt, she could feel her presence beside her. With tears in her eyes, Emma embraced her father, knowing that no matter how many miles separated them, she would always remain connected to the home and love he had built. And so, with a heavy heart and Mary's journal in hand, Emma began her walk into the unknown, knowing the world awaited her and her story was just beginning. Arriving in the first town beyond Willow Creek, Emma was immediately enveloped by the vibrant energy of the streets, teeming with hurried people and ceaseless sounds. This chaotic environment was utterly different from the tranquility of her farm, and for a moment, she felt out of place. Yet her curiosity about everything around her outweighed any fear. In every street and every unfamiliar face, Emma saw a new story waiting to be explored, a feeling that made her feel truly alive for the first time. The city quickly offered Emma opportunities to share her talent. She signed up for a local poetry competition, where young writers and poets gathered to recite their works. At the event, Emma met other artists who were also searching for their voices and identities, each with their own life stories. Listening to them, she felt inspired to write about Willow Creek, her father, and the loss of her mother, themes she had never openly explored before. Those verses, which had initially been a bridge to the unknown, now became a way of connecting her past with her present. Her first night in the city, however, was marked by intense loneliness. Returning to the small room she had rented, Emma found herself surrounded by cold walls and the oppressive silence of a place where she knew no one. Without the comfort of her father's presence, the vastness of the city felt overwhelming, and she felt a deep longing for the home she had left behind. In a moment of solace, she reached for Mary's journal and read it with renewed focus. In its yellowed pages, she found passages about her mother's desire to explore the world, even though that had never been possible for her. Reading Mary's words, Emma felt an even stronger connection to her mother and realized that her own journey was, in a sense, fulfilling the dreams her mother had secretly harbored. The following days brought new discoveries. Emma began exploring the city with greater confidence, wandering its streets and corners with a natural curiosity. She found cozy cafes, peaceful parks, and quiet libraries where she spent hours writing and observing life around her. The streets, which had initially seemed cold and distant, gradually became familiar. She met people from diverse backgrounds and listened to their stories, fueling her poetry with the richness of urban life. Despite the distance from Willow Creek, Emma found that the love for her father and the farm acted as an invisible thread guiding her every step. While the adventure and freedom captivated her, Emma realized that her longing for Willow Creek still beat strongly in her heart. The love for her father and the life she had left behind was not something the city could erase. In every poem she wrote, she found a way to unite her past with her present, carrying a piece of home with her. At the end of each day, Emma understood that while her journey was just beginning, the roots that had nourished her heart would stay with her wherever she went. Over the months, Emma became a constant presence in the city's literary community. Her poetry, inspired by memories of Willow Creek and the complex love she felt for her father, began to draw attention. She was invited to events and readings, where her emotionally charged words captivated audiences. Each compliment and every new opportunity felt like a victory for Emma, a testament to the power of her poetic voice to reach beyond the boundaries of her farm. On stage, she felt confident and authentic, as if every verse brought her closer to freedom and self-discovery. But as with any journey of growth, life in the city brought moments of loneliness and doubt. Some nights were filled with questions and a nearly tangible longing for Willow Creek. She missed the calm of mornings on the farm and the sound of Tom's footsteps on the porch. In those moments of nostalgia, Emma turned again to Mary's journal, which had become her most faithful confidant. Rereading her mother's dreams and reflections, Emma found renewed strength to move forward, feeling that she was fulfilling not only her own desires, but also part of Mary's unspoken dreams. At one of these readings, Emma met Logan, a young poet who shared her deep love for the written word. Logan was adventurous and full of stories about travels and experiences she had only read about in books. He seemed to see Emma with a rare sensitivity, understanding the depth of her verses and the emotions she carried within her. With Logan, Emma felt encouraged to delve deeper into her feelings and creativity, drawing inspiration from conversations that ranged from literary themes to the mysteries of life. Logan urged Emma to stay true to herself, to write with even more intensity and authenticity. As her relationship with Logan deepened, Emma began to understand a new dimension of love, one that liberated rather than confined her. He became a steady presence in her life, someone with whom she could share her biggest dreams and deepest fears. Emma realized that true love, like what she had found in Logan, didn't demand sacrifices of her identity. Instead, it strengthened her desire to explore the world and be true to herself. With him, she felt she had finally found a balance between her quest for freedom and her need for belonging. Yet even as she experienced this new kind of love, Emma continued to carry the unbreakable bond with her father and her home in her heart. In her letters to Tom, she shared details of her life in the city, the friendships she had formed, and how much her poetry was being celebrated. Writing each word, she felt the connection to Willow Creek grow stronger. Even though she was far away, Emma knew that the farm and her father's love were the foundation of who she was, a constant, comforting presence in her journey. As Emma's relationship with Logan deepened and her presence in the literary scene grew, she began reflecting on the choices she had made and the impact they had on her life. With each new success and compliment, she felt the satisfaction of forging her own path. Yet, at the same time, she realized that this independence came with a growing distance from Willow Creek, and especially from Tom. Emma wondered if, by choosing her destiny, she was sacrificing a part of her connection to the father and home that had always grounded her. In an intimate conversation, Emma opened up to Logan about her unease. He listened patiently, offering her comfort and reassurance. Logan explained that true love and bonds aren't lost with distance. Instead, they become a part of who we are, woven into the essence of every new experience. He suggested that perhaps revisiting Willow Creek and reconnecting with her father would be a way to embrace her roots while sharing everything she had learned about the world and herself. This conversation ignited in Emma a deep longing to see Tom again, a chance to close an important chapter in her life. Determined, Emma wrote a heartfelt letter to her father. She shared details about Logan, her nights of poetry readings, and the wondrous days she had spent in the city. She spoke of the challenges she had faced and how freedom and love had revealed a new dimension of happiness to her. Emma expressed her longing and the desire to visit him soon, bringing along the stories and lessons life had offered her. For her, this trip was more than just a visit. It was an opportunity to share her journey and, perhaps, help Tom better understand the reasons behind her departure. Sending the letter brought Emma a profound sense of relief. She realized that her pursuit of independence had never been a rejection of Tom's love, but a way to expand the world he had created for her. Emma understood that the next step was finding a balance between her new life and the love and respect she felt for her father. While waiting for Tom's response, Logan's words echoed in her mind, reminding her that love and longing didn't limit her. They were evidence of everything precious she had to hold on to. During the weeks of waiting, Emma delved even deeper into her writing, which now reflected a newfound maturity. Her poetry explored themes like the enduring strength of unbreakable bonds and the liberating power of love. Each poem became a step toward reconciling her freedom with her love for home. When Tom's response finally arrived, Emma knew with certainty that her journey still had many chapters to be written and that a new stage of her life was about to begin. On the day of her return, Emma boarded the bus back to Willow Creek. As the urban landscape gradually gave way to rolling hills and vast fields, her heart raced with the anticipation of seeing her father again and the memories of her life on the farm. The nostalgia of her childhood mingled with the anxiety of the reunion, and she knew this homecoming would be unlike any other farewell or arrival. As she stepped off the bus, Emma spotted Tom waiting for her with a calm smile and open arms. The embrace they shared was silent but filled with emotion. Words weren't necessary. All the love, longing, and understanding of what they had been through together were present in that gesture. Tom looked at her with tenderness, seeing in his daughter a strong and confident woman who still carried the sweetness and connection they had always shared. To him, Emma was the bridge between past and present, a living memory of Mary and an extension of his own courage. In the days that followed, Emma and Tom dedicated themselves to sharing everything they had experienced during their time apart. She told him about Logan, the friends she had made, and how poetry had become an integral part of her life. Tom listened intently, taking in every detail. During one of their conversations at sunset, he revealed the difficulties and fears he had faced when she left. He shared how her absence had forced him to grow, teaching him the importance of trusting the choices she needed to make to find happiness. For Emma, these revelations brought a deeper understanding of her father's love and sacrifice. She realized that, despite his initial hesitation about her departure, Tom had found ways to overcome his own insecurities. As the hours passed, Emma felt their relationship growing even stronger and more authentic. The father who had raised her with such care and protection now opened up to her as a friend, someone who not only loved her but also respected and supported her journey. During her visit, Emma also reconnected with childhood friends and revisited places filled with memories. One of the most emotional moments came when Logan surprised her by visiting Willow Creek to meet Tom. Emma introduced Logan to her father with pride, and the two spent hours talking about life on the farm, their shared love of nature, and their mutual respect for the values Tom had always upheld. For Emma, watching Logan and Tom exchange laughter and stories confirmed that her path was truly aligned with who she was and what she wanted. On Logan's last night in Willow Creek, the three of them sat on the farmhouse porch under a starry sky. Between laughter and stories, Tom realized that his greatest gift to Emma had always been his unconditional love, which now allowed her to fly free. As he looked at his daughter sitting beside Logan, he understood that she had found her balance between love and freedom. For Emma, that night represented the harmony she had been searching for, and she knew she would carry Willow Creek in her heart, no matter where life took her. Returning to the city, Emma felt a new sense of lightness in her heart. The reunion with her father and his acceptance of her relationship with Logan had strengthened her confidence and reassured her as she continued down her chosen path. Inspired by the experience, Emma began writing a new series of poems about love, sacrifice, and the freedom she had gained. In each verse, she explored the complexities of her feelings for her father, her mother, and the home that had always been her foundation. Determined to honor the father who meant so much to her, Emma dedicated the first poem of her new series to Tom. In her verses, she described him as both an anchor and a compass, someone who had always guided her, even from afar. This particular poem became a public tribute to everything he had taught her, the careful way he had raised her, and the unconditional love he continued to offer. Published in a literary magazine, the poem quickly resonated with readers, touching the hearts of those who, like Emma, found strength in family bonds. The success of this poetry series was so remarkable that Emma was invited on a literary tour, traveling to different cities to present her work. The opportunity to share her journey and her love for Willow Creek with an even wider audience was a dream come true. Emma knew this was another chance to carry the legacy of Mary and Tom beyond the boundaries of the farm. Logan, always by her side, accompanied her on the journey, offering support and inspiration, further strengthening their bond. During the tour, every city they visited brought new experiences and emotions that enriched Emma's writing. At her readings, she dedicated special pieces to Mary and Tom, highlighting the enduring power of love woven into her poetry. For Emma, these readings were not merely performances. They were a way to connect with others who had faced loss and found strength to rebuild. The messages in her poems inspired audiences to cherish the bonds that tied them to their own stories. At the end of the tour, Emma made an important decision. She would continue to explore the world and share her stories, but never at the expense of her roots. On every stage and to every audience, she carried a piece of Willow Creek, a legacy of love, learning, and courage. Emma understood that home was not a fixed point on a map, but something that lived within her, rooted in the love that had shaped her and the verses she now shared with the world. After the tour's success, Emma felt the world brimming with possibilities, but also began to recognize the importance of creating something lasting for herself and Logan. Together, they decided to buy a small house in the city, a place that would represent the union of her memories of Willow Creek with the freedom she now embraced. This home, simple and cozy, quickly became a refuge where they could build a life together, blending the past and present into a new beginning. To mark this new chapter, Emma and Logan hosted a modest housewarming celebration. To Emma's surprise, Tom made the journey from Willow Creek to attend, bringing childhood keepsakes and small mementos that had once belonged to Mary. Walking through the rooms adorned with Emma's poems and photos of the landscapes she cherished, Tom felt a profound peace. He saw that his daughter had found a balance between the life she had chosen and her enduring love for home. Observing every detail with pride and emotion, he knew Emma had created a family and a home that reflected her essence. During the celebration, Emma read a special poem dedicated to her father's love and sacrifice. In her words, she described him as a force that had always guided her toward her true freedom. She explored the idea that freedom isn't an escape, but a seed planted by love, blossoming when nurtured with support and trust. Her verses moved everyone present, especially Tom, who realized that his daughter had transformed her experiences into something both beautiful and lasting. The days spent together with Logan and Tom were light and joyful. Logan and Tom spent long hours talking, exchanging stories about their different life perspectives. Emma felt a renewed happiness seeing the two most influential figures in her life develop a natural respect and friendship. One afternoon, while fishing by a nearby lake, Tom confided in Logan that he felt a deep peace knowing Emma was with someone who loved and respected her without trying to limit her freedom. Logan, in turn, assured Tom that he would always support Emma's dreams, honoring the love and trust she had placed in them both. On Tom's final evening before returning to Willow Creek, he and Emma spent one last night talking under a starry sky. They reminisced about their memories of Willow Creek and the legacy of Mary, which they both carried in their hearts. With tears in his eyes, Tom told Emma that he had never felt so complete, knowing she had found her happiness. For him, that moment was a reaffirmation that his role as a father had come full circle, that the daughter he had always protected was now a complete and independent woman, ready to continue writing her own story. A few years after establishing their home, Emma and Logan received the joyous news that they were expecting a child. The discovery filled their home with renewed happiness, a sense of renewal and continuity that gave Emma a deeper understanding of her roots and the future she was building. The arrival of the baby represented not just a new life, but also the union of everything she and Logan had experienced and learned. When Emma shared the news with Tom, he was deeply moved, promising her that he would always be present for the new generation of their family. During her pregnancy, Emma dedicated herself to writing a special book for the baby. In every poem and story, she recorded pieces of her own history, the lessons she had learned in Willow Creek, and the unconditional love she had received from Tom and Mary. She wanted her child to grow up understanding the roots that grounded them, knowing the legacy of strength, freedom, and love that had shaped her life. Through her words, Emma found a way to pass on the spirit and values of her mother, Mary, to future generations. When the baby was born, Emma and Logan decided to name him Thomas, in honor of the grandfather who had inspired them both so deeply. Holding his grandson for the first time, Tom felt a love that transcended time, as though he were holding not just a new life, but a continuation of everything he had built with Mary and Emma. He whispered words of affection to the baby, promising to be a constant guardian and source of support. Watching her father cradle little Thomas, Emma felt that her family's story had transformed into a cycle of love that grew and strengthened with time. In the months that followed, Emma and Logan's home filled with laughter, lullabies, and the first smiles of little Thomas. Each day was a reminder of the transformative power of love and the choices that had brought them to this moment. Emma and Logan shared their traditions and favorite songs, and as Thomas grew, he was surrounded by the poetry and tenderness his parents so deeply cherished. Through her son, Emma felt that the legacy of her mother and father would live on forever, an eternal cycle of love, strength, and hope. As time passed, Emma decided to publish the book she had written for Thomas, turning it into a gift for other families to cherish and connect with. The book became a nationwide success, resonating with readers who saw themselves in its simplicity and emotional depth. Each page carried messages about love, sacrifice, and freedom, values that shaped not only Emma's life, but also the lives of those who understood the importance of their own roots. For Emma, this book was more than a gift to her son. It was a celebration of the legacy that Mary and Tom had entrusted to her and that she now passed on. With little Thomas in her arms and Logan by her side, Emma knew she was living the most meaningful chapter of her story. Her family reflected the lessons she had learned from her parents, and she felt blessed to continue the cycle of love and freedom that had always guided her path. It was as if each generation strengthened the invisible bond that united them, and Emma was certain that, through the stories and memories they shared, the love of her family would remain eternal. Years later, on a quiet evening, Emma sat by the lake near her home. Under the vast, starry sky, she reflected on the journey that had brought her to this moment. She felt Mary and Tom's presence in every part of her story, not just as memories, but as living forces that had shaped her heart and her art. She felt immense gratitude for everything she had experienced, recognizing that each step had brought her closer to herself and the legacy she now passed on to Thomas. Inspired by this reflection, Emma decided to write the final poem for a book she had started years earlier but had left unfinished. In this last poem, she explored the concept of the eternity of love, how the care and sacrifices we receive perpetuate themselves in every act of kindness, every choice of freedom, and every memory we hold dear. For her, true love was like the stars, always present, even in the darkest nights, and always guiding those who sought its light. The book was published and quickly became a landmark in the literary world, a testament to what Emma's life represented. A journey of struggles and triumphs, yes, but above all, a celebration of love. The story of her family moved readers of all ages, inspiring them to find strength in their own roots and the courage to remain true to themselves. Emma felt fulfilled not only by the book's success, but by the certainty that the story of Mary, Tom, and her own journey was touching and transforming hearts. As the years went by, Tom grew older, and Emma devoted herself to caring for him with the same tenderness he had shown her throughout her life. In Tom's final days, father and daughter shared deep, quiet conversations, and he expressed his peace in knowing she had found her place in the world. Tom felt his journey was complete, leaving Emma and the new generation with a legacy of love that would endure through time. His passing was serene, and Emma knew he would live on in her memories and in every act of love she chose to make. After Tom's departure, Emma often visited the lake near the farm, always carrying with her the love that he and Mary had left as her inheritance. With each visit, she renewed her promise to keep her family's legacy alive, continuing to write, to love, and to inspire future generations to believe in the power of their own stories. Poetry had become her bridge to the past, a reflection of everything she had learned about love, freedom, and the importance of her roots. The cycle of Emma's life had come full circle, but Mary and Tom's legacy lived on in every verse and every story she shared. The eternity of love was not just in her family's memories, but in the way her words inspired others to honor their bonds and live fully. And so, Emma moved forward, knowing that while time might pass, true love would never fade. Emma's story invites us to reflect on the transformative power of love, memory, and belonging. On her journey, Emma discovered that true freedom is not an escape but a foundation where roots and dreams intertwine, creating a legacy that transcends generations. By leaving Willow Creek to find her own path, she not only gained independence but also strengthened the bond that tied her to the past, perpetuating Mary and Tom's love in every choice and every verse. Throughout the chapters of her life, Emma experienced the joy and pain of growth, confronted her own limitations, and, above all, learned to transform her longing and respect for the past into a force that guided future generations. Her story, like all of ours, is proof that true love, the kind that liberates and strengthens, never fades. In every page Emma wrote, she left a universal message, that we always carry with us the people we love and the lessons that shaped us, creating new beginnings each day with courage and gratitude. If you enjoyed this story full of twists and emotion, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss more incredible narratives like this one. Keep following along and discover how stories of resilience, love, and forgiveness can inspire change in our lives.